Hello, welcome to Restorative Yoga. This restorative yoga class is going to focus on the hips and the upper body. For this sequence today, we will need a few different props. Props that will help you get into these postures will be a bolster. Now, if you don't actually have a bolster, don't worry about that. You can use a pillow or you can grab some blankets to stack instead of a bolster. So if you're using blankets instead of a bolster, I suggest getting extra blankets because you'll also need those as well. 2 blocks will also be very helpful for this sequence. Additionally, this next prop can be optional or not. You can use a sandbag. What I'm going to use is a weighted blanket. It's not full size, but when I fold it up, it's just this big. When I fold it, then I can use it as a weight to position on certain parts of the body in a couple different postures that we're going to come into today. Again, this is just optional. You don't have to have it. Maybe you also have an eye pillow so that once you come into each pose, you can position the eye pillow on your eyes so that you can bring your gaze inward. This is really helpful in the restorative yoga practice because we know that we're in these postures for a longer amount of time. A couple of these postures will be in less time, 1 to 3 minutes. They're a little more intense, but most of them will be 5 to 8 minutes. You might even want to take it longer, maybe 11 minutes if you have the time for that. So, positioning your props around you, just make sure that they're close enough to your mat that you can grab onto them, but you still have the space of your mat. Just making sure that you can reach around them. Having these props is fully going to support your body so that you can easily come into the postures without force or strength so that we can release the tension from the body. The first posture that we're going to do is a prone tree pose. Prone means that we're going to be on our bellies. Our bellies are going to be down onto the mat. Our legs are going to be in the shape of tree pose. One leg will be straight, the other leg will have a bent knee. Now, before we bring our belly down onto the mat, let me tell you why we're going to do this posture on each side. This releases the inner thigh muscles of the bent leg and releases the posterior hip of the straight leg. We will be using 2 blankets for this posture. I'll have you open up a blanket the length of your torso. So if your torso is a little shorter, you might fold your blanket to accommodate that. So go ahead and shift over so that you can bring your blanket underneath where your torso is going to go. Leave space for your head. Your other blanket is going to come out to the side to support your bent leg. So just position that out. Now, once you're ready, and also take your time to refold your blankets however you need them to come into this pose. This is one of the options where we are going to have the option to use that sandbag or weighted prop if you want to. If you don't have this prop, don't worry, it's not necessary. So when you're ready, go ahead and come onto your belly. As you come onto your belly, remember that you're going to position your torso onto the blanket. I'm going to bring my sandbag in closer, and then I'm going to bend one knee. So think about the shape that your body is in when you come into tree pose. Your knee is bent and the sole of the foot is coming towards the straight leg. Now, before I lower my head down, I'm going to take my weighted option. This is actually a mini weighted blanket, and I'm going to place that right on my sacrum. The sacrum is the triangular bone at the base of your low back, so you don't want to actually position this on your low back. Think more towards the glutes. Now, if you're working with that option and you're ready to come into this pose, go ahead and stack your hands, making a pillow for your forehead, and then bring your forehead directly down onto your hands and then rest. I'll let you know when it's time to come into the other side. Now, I like to position my elbows out wide. This lets me fully lower down. And in this time, we just notice. We notice how the body feels in this shape. We notice the support of the props underneath and around us. Let the foot relax on both legs. Fully let yourself sink down. This is the time to relax. This is why we take this class. To give ourselves this time of a deeper opening. In this way, really serving ourselves with our practice. Through the shapes of the supported postures. And now taking the time to lengthen the breath. Tune into your breath. Notice if you can hear your inhalation and exhalation. As you inhale, feel your belly pressing to the blanket, pressing to the mat. As you exhale, feel the belly soften. Now, when we're standing in tree pose, we have the sole of the bent leg pressing to the inner thigh of the straight leg. In our prone option on our bellies, you might find it more comfortable to create a little space between the foot and the thigh. So give yourself permission to wiggle around and modify as you need to. And once you find the optimal shape for your body in this pose, come back to your breath awareness. We'll be spending 5 minutes on each side. We've got less than 2 minutes left on this first side. Relax into the pose with each exhale breath. Coming into our last minute on this side, take a scan of your body. Notice if you're holding on to any tension. And if so, just practice softening and surrendering with each exhale breath. Maybe even practicing opening the mouth as you release the exhale. Taking a sigh of relief. We've got just a couple more rounds of breath. Now on your next inhale breath, Gently lift your forehead, gaze forward. Bring your elbows towards your body. Come onto your forearms. Now, if you've got a weight on your sacrum, see if you can extend your bent leg straight, keeping the weight there. If it's a little too wobbly, you can release the weight first. Notice how it feels to have the weight on both sides if you're in this option. And then use your arms to transition the blanket to the other side. Now supporting the opposite leg, taking your time to adjust the props that you have chosen. Now when you're ready, the leg that was straight on the first side is now going to bend. If you've got the weight on your sacrum, you might want to take your hand back, hold it into place, take the knee out to the side, position it onto the blanket to have the support. You may need to reposition the weight on the sacrum if it feels like it's sliding to one side. And then when you're ready, lower the head down. Stack the hands again. Once you stack the hands, bring your forehead down so your hands are making a pillow for your forehead. Now, as you lower down, check in on this side. This side may feel different. You may feel a different sensation. Know that you're getting external rotation on the bent knee leg. You may feel a stretch on the inner thigh. You may notice this side feeling different. Just enjoy the experience of the opening on this side. Maybe you play around with creating a little space between the sole of the foot of the bent leg and the thigh of the straight leg. Prone tree pose. Feel the torso supported on the blanket. And now practice lengthening your breath. Inhaling to the top of the breath all the way until you can't take in any more air. And then practice releasing slowly. Take your time. As we slow the breath, we're able to calm the nervous system, helping ourselves to reduce stress and anxiety. Notice how your arms feel. You may need to adjust the arms. Just checking in on the shoulders. It's really important in the restorative practice that we let our bodies be comfortable. When we're comfortable and fully supported, then that's when we can actually let the tension go. We're halfway through on this side. Bring all of your attention to your breath. Become aware of how you're breathing and how much you can lengthen your breath. Know that even though we're practicing these postures in stillness, you're always welcome to wiggle around and modify. Anytime your body feels uncomfortable and you feel that you can get reposition in a way to better support yourself, please feel free to do that. This is your practice. You know what your body wants and needs. So really listen to your body. Got about 1.5 minutes left on this side. As you inhale, feel the belly pressing down into the blanket, into the mat. As you exhale, feel the softening, the surrender, melting down. Completely releasing, letting yourself enjoy this time of presence in your body. Less than 1 minute. Focus on your breath, bringing your attention back to lengthening. Know that as we prepare to transition out, there is no rush. This is the style of class that we really want to take our time in. We want to take our time setting up. We want to take our time transitioning. Take one more full round of breath. Inhale all the way to the top of the breath. Exhale, open the mouth, let it go. On your next inhale, lift your head, gaze forward. Walk your hands towards the body, come onto your forearms. Start to straighten the bent leg. Take your hand back, holding on to the weight if you're working with one. Just take a moment with both legs straight. Coming onto the forearms, gazing forward. As we transition to our next posture, go ahead and reach back if you've got a weight. Slide it off of the sacrum out to the side. And from here, bring your palms under your shoulders. Push your hands to the mat, straighten your arms, lift your hips. Come onto your seat. Now coming into our second posture, this is going to be an elevated Baddha Konasana. For this posture, I will recommend 2 blankets. And you want to fold the blankets the same. So the blankets are going to support the thighs. Now, one thigh, one hip might be tighter than the other. If that's the case, then we're going to fold the blanket again. And we're going to do that for both sides. This way, the side that is more open is going to relax, while the side that's tighter has an opportunity to be supported and open up more. We'll also be using a bolster. Bring the bolster onto the mat near your low legs. Position the blankets outside of the mat. Now, looking at the bolster in front of you, Baddha Konasana is our bound angle. So we'll take the hands back to support ourselves, and we'll bring our legs onto the bolster. Now, the soles of the feet meet, the low legs and the feet are supported by the bolster. Walk your hands forward as you continue to set up. Now, this is where we're going to take the blankets underneath the thighs. As you bring the blankets underneath the thighs, if you notice that the blankets aren't quite meeting your thighs, then this is where you can fold the blankets more to get a little more support and lift. We really want the thighs to rest down. Elevated Baddha Konasana. Now our upper body is going to go back. We're going to bring our spine, our shoulders, and our head onto the mat. In this posture, we're using gravity and the weight of our legs to passively open the front of the pelvic region. Now, start to walk the hands back. Come on to your forearms. The legs are completely supported. As you bring your spine, shoulders, and head down, you might want to bring your weighted blanket or your sandbag where you can grab onto it. And you have an option to place it onto the front of the pelvis. Remember, this is just an option. So if you don't have this weighted option, that's okay. Now go ahead and bring your head back. If you don't have weight on your pelvis, you can bring your hands to your belly, or you can bring your arms out to the sides. Now, as you settle in, if your thighs do not feel supported, continue to fold your blanket. Continue to maximize the height with the fold so that the thighs are fully supported. You can also achieve this with pillows, especially if you need a little more lift. Now, once you get to a place where you feel fully supported, bring your arms out to your sides or hands on the belly. Let the eyes close. You've also got the option here to place an eye pillow on your eyes. This is going to depend on if that helps you bring your gaze inward, or if there's a lot of light in the room and you just kind of want to darken things out. Otherwise, you can close your eyes, tuck your chin towards your chest, lengthening the back of the neck. And just repositioning your hair if it's in your way, getting really grounded down, really comfortable. All we have to do now is just breathe. Take a scan of your body. Notice now in this shape if you're holding on to any stress or tension. And if you're feeling a hold of tension in any area, that's okay. Just let it go as you exhale. Remind your body that now it's time to relax into this shape in this time. Time to relax. Time to recharge. Time to restore. Those of you that have been following my classes and have seen many of them know that occasionally there is a cameo by my senior dog, Remy. Remy is going to be 14 this year. He has a little mat set up in this room that you can't see on camera, but some of you might be hearing him snoring. So if you're hearing his snoring, hear the length of that. See if you can match your breath. Lengthening, relaxing. And as we lengthen the breath, feel the body melt down. We went from a prone position to a supine position, also known as a reclined position. Now with the spine, back, the shoulders, the head, the glutes on the mat. We're halfway through this shape. Breathe. Let yourself fully relax with each exhale breath. If you're having too many thoughts passing by, let's practice letting them go just as easily as they come in. Whatever thoughts seem important in this moment, know that if they're really important, they will come back later after your practice. For now, just let everything go. Completely focus on your body, on this shape, on the intention of relaxation. Exhale, let it go. We're in our last minute. Just a few more rounds of breath. Inhale deeply through the nostrils. Exhale, open your mouth, release. Now, if you've got a weight on your pelvis, take your hands to lift it, release it out to the side. Give yourself a few rounds of breath, laying in this position without the weight on the front of the pelvis. And as you're taking breath here, reach your palms to your outer thighs. And start to lift the knees, bring the knees towards each other. Bring the soles of your feet to your bolster. Press your low back down into the mat. And then when you're ready, roll over onto one side, just as a transition to come onto your seat. So we're coming onto our seat because we're going to change the station of our body again from reclined back on the mat, back to belly towards the mat. Now, if you moved a little faster, or if you tend to move fast in your day, this can cause you to get a little dizzy. If that happens at any point in your practice, just give yourself a few rounds of breath just to get readjusted. So the seated pose is a really nice reflective pause, transitional, as we move into changing the station of the body again. Now, looking around at your props, know that you will need your blankets towards the top of the mat. Go ahead and open your blankets so that when they're folded, they're about this big. Stack those two blankets. Now you're going to need your two blocks. Position your blocks at the top of your mat at the lowest height. Bring the short ends of the blocks towards each other. And then position both of the blankets on top of the blocks. Now we've got a nice lift here. Move over. As you move over, take the bolster to the top. As you move over, come into a kneeling position. From your kneeling position, take the blankets off of the blocks, bring them to position where they're going to go underneath the low ribs. Now, as you set both blankets there, grab onto the bolster. Bring the bolster onto the blocks. If your bolster has a zipper, I recommend bringing it away from the body. Now, we've got a lot of lift here. We want the bolster higher than the blankets. If you don't have a bolster, you can stack more blankets. Now, let's just see how this feels. We're coming into a supported Sphinx pose. This is going to open the front and back of the hips passively in internal rotation. So first, just come on by bringing the low ribs onto the blanket. And as you set the low ribs onto the blanket, position your forearms onto the bolster. Now, for those of you that have low back issues, this might be a little much. If that's the case and you feel pinching in your low back, then you can remove the bolster and bring your forearms straight down onto the blocks. So try this first. If this is really uncomfortable and it's just too much compression in the low back, then your option is going to be to remove that bolster, rotate the blocks so that the short ends come towards you, so that you've got the length of the blocks to position your forearms on. Now, I actually have a condition in my L4, L5, and S1, so being on the bolster really doesn't feel good for my low back. This option is way safer for my body. So listen to your body. Trying both options, your body's going to tell you which one is the best one for today's practice. Now we're going to stay here for 1 to 3 minutes. We've already been here for a little bit of time. We've got about 2 minutes left. Your gaze is going to be forward. Breathe. Notice if you need to reposition your arms at any point. Also notice that the hands are free here. There's no pressure on the wrist. Try to position your elbows underneath your shoulders. Now, as you focus on your breath, feel your belly pressing to the blankets. Let the front of the hips open up. Keep looking straight ahead. Avoid the urge to look up. If you're looking up, you're compressing the back of the neck and the cervical spine. Check in with yourself, see if you can lengthen the breath. We're on our last minute. Just a few more rounds of breath in our supported Sphinx pose. We are going to take a rebound pose after this one. We're going to keep our body in this station with the belly down, prone position. To set up for our rebound, we'll take the blocks out wide off the mat and then bring the bolster underneath the forehead. Now, as you bring your forehead down, there should be space under your face to breathe. And now the forearms are going to rest on the blocks. Now we've got more of a neutral spine. You may need to readjust how you have the bolster under your forehead, but you should just be feeling the bolster or your pillow or your stacked blankets under your forehead. The 2 stacked blankets underneath the low ribs, and 1 block underneath each forearm. There's space between the face and the mat and the chest and the mat. Now we're going to be here for a longer amount of time than in the back bend that we were just doing. Find your most comfortable positioning in this option and breathe. If you're holding tension in the legs, let the legs relax. You might notice the heels of the feet moving out, or the heels coming in. Just let your legs relax how they naturally want to, without holding them in any shape or position. Just completely relaxing. Know that you're supported by your props. All you have to do is relax, breathe. If at any point the bolster underneath the forehead feels like a little too much, maybe you start to feel this in your low back. Another option for less intensity would be to send the bolster away. Position a block underneath the forehead and then bring the arms down to the mat. Forearms to the mat. If the block feels really hard underneath the forehead, maybe you position a blanket or a pillow, or maybe you stack your hands, making a pillow for your forehead. This is your practice. You are totally in control of the option that you take. You decide your option based on how your body feels. All of these options are correct. The one that feels best in your body is the correct one for you. If at any point you feel that your forehead is smushed down, you can rotate one side of your head to one direction. And if you took the option of rotating your head to one direction, go ahead and lift your head, take it to the other direction. It's almost time to come out of this shape. Just a few more rounds of breath. Now, wherever your head is, bring your forehead to center. Lift your forehead, take your hands underneath your shoulders. As you press your hands to the mat, straighten your arms, lift your hips. As you lift your body off of the blankets, bring your knees forward, slide the blankets out to the sides so that there are no props on your mat, and then reach for your bolster or your pillow. Bring the short end towards your body. Pause, open the knees the width of the mat, bring the big toes together and send your hips all the way to your heels. Now, as you do this, if at any point there's space between the hips and the heels, you can position a blanket underneath to close that gap. Otherwise, you're going to slide the short end of the bolster between the thighs. And then when you're ready, lay your belly and your chest onto the bolster. Your forearms might ground down onto the mat, or you might find it more comfortable to have the forearms elevated onto blankets or blocks. Set yourself up. Turn your head to one side. Relax. Breathe. Let the hips open. Let the low back release. With each exhalation, practice sinking down even deeper. Child's pose. Supported child's pose with the bolster. This is a great posture to take anytime you feel anxious and you need to calm your nervous system. This is a great posture to take anytime you're having trouble sleeping at night. Now we're halfway through, so I'm going to have you lift your head and then rotate your head in the opposite direction. Prepare to come out. Inhale, lift your head. Exhale, press your palms to the mat. As you straighten your arms, pause here, take a full round of breath. Bolster is in front of you. We're going to continue to work with the bolster. Now, taking one hand to push the bolster to the top of the mat, still keeping the short end towards you and the other short end at the top of the mat. Now lift your hips, come into a tabletop position. Here you can inhale, let your belly lower, and then exhale, lift your back for a few rounds, just letting your spine get some movement and fluidity. Next up, we're going to come into a supported pigeon pose. Now we'll be using the bolster underneath the torso. Bring the spine to neutral. You might also want to use a blanket underneath your hip of your bent leg. I'm going to start demonstrating on my right side. So from tabletop, I'm going to bring my right knee behind my right wrist and my right foot to the left edge of the mat. Now I'll lengthen my left leg, look past my left shoulder, make sure my left leg is straight behind me, including the foot. Now, the short end of the bolster is up to my right shin. If there's a lot of space underneath my right hip, this is where I would put my blanket, folding your blanket at whatever height is benefiting you. You can also position a block there if you prefer. Now, as you lower your belly and your chest down to the mat, know that if you need a little more support, a little more height, you can position some padding underneath your forehead or chest. This is going to help you soften your neck and shoulders. So if you're taking that option, a blanket could go underneath your chest and your forehead, getting more of an incline. Now, as you lower down, pay attention to your bent knee. If your knee is hurting, then you might want to open up the angle at that bent knee. It might take you a little bit of time to find the option that's working on this side. Supported pigeon. Let the forearms relax onto the mat or onto the blocks. Feel a nice deep stretch stretch at the right hip. Make sure the hips aren't sagging from one side or the other. Try to keep the hips squared, keeping the hips in line with each other. We're going to take 5 minutes on each side, and we've already had more than 1 minute on this side. Continue to wiggle around and modify anytime you need to, finding the option that's most supported. If you feel the left hip sagging down, you can always take a block or a blanket underneath that left hip if you need a little lift there. Remember, this class, this style of yoga is all about letting yourself be supported. The props are very much a part of this practice. They help support us so that we can serve ourselves into this practice of deep relaxation. Breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. We're already halfway through on this side. Now, I felt a lot of compression at my right knee. If that's the case for you, you can bring your right shin more parallel towards the bolster. Maybe positioning the block between your right foot and your left thigh. In this way, I can actually feel a deeper stretch into my right hip. So many options to support yourself. Give yourself time to explore. And then settle in. Coming into our last minute. In my own practice, I notice that I enjoy supported pigeon much more than unsupported. It feels safer for my body. Just notice how your body feels, what your body likes, what your body's telling you today. Breathe. On your next inhale, lift your head. Rotate your palms to the mat. Inhale, straighten the arms. Gaze forward. Notice how you have your props. You might have this same setup on the other side. The other side might need something totally different. To set up on the other side, lean onto your right hip to remove a block or prop if you had it underneath the left side. And then lift your hips, slide that right foot back, move any blankets out of the way, come into tabletop position. Take a full round of breath here. Exhale, let it go. Now, if you had any propping underneath, your bent leg, then you're going to want to take it over to the left side. We're going to take our supported pigeon on this side. Setting up, letting our props be close. Now, from tabletop, let's take that left knee towards the left wrist, left foot towards the right side of the mat. Extend the right leg. I like to curl my toes, lift my knee, move it back, and then look over the right shoulder. Make sure the right leg, including the foot, is straight behind you. Now look at the bolster. Make sure that the short end of the bolster is up against your shin. If you're working with propping underneath your hip of your bent leg, set it up underneath. If you're working with propping on the other side, set it up. Now look at your bolster. Take an inhale breath. As you exhale, bend your elbows, lower down. Connect your chest to your bolster. Bring awareness to how this side feels. Really check in with this side. Remember that you're in control of your practice. You modify as you need to. And once you feel comfortable and supported, give yourself permission to sink down, to let the hip open, releasing tension, releasing congestion and stagnant energy. And in this stillness and time that you've carved out for yourself, notice the feeling of peacefulness. Notice your breath. Just breathe and be. As your forearms are grounded, maybe you rotate your palms facing up as an intention of receiving. Or maybe you rotate your palms facing down as an intention of grounding. Try both. And then stick with the one that resonates with you the most. Now take your awareness into the hip. With your eyes closed, notice the sensation. With your eyes closed, working with visualization, imagine each exhale breath traveling into the hip. Lengthen the breath. We're coming into our last minute. Last round of breath. Inhale fully. Exhale completely. Inhale, lift your head. Press palms to the mat. Straighten the arms. As you straighten the arms and create space between the torso and the bolster, lean over to one side, remove the prop. Lean over to the other side, remove the prop. Pressing palms to the mat, slide the bent knee back. Come into a tabletop position. Now looking at your bolster with the short end towards you, rotate it. So now the long end is towards you. Bring the bolster underneath the low ribs. Press your hands to the bolster. Position the low ribs and then lower down. Now, once you've got the ribs on the bolster, bring your arms in front. Cross your right arm over your left so your hands are moving away from each other. Rotate your palms facing up and now lower your chin down towards your arms. Gentle shoulder stretch. You can practice bringing your arms closer towards the bolster. If that's too intense, you can take the arms further away. Whatever you choose, let the head and the neck go. Lower the forehead down. We're only going to be here for 1 minute on each side. Two more rounds of breath. Inhale, lift the head, gaze forward. And exhale, open the arms out to the sides. And then set it up so that now the arms cross again, but the left arm comes over the right. Palms are facing up. Once you've got your arms positioned, remember arms closer to the bolster is going to be a deeper stretch. The head is going to go down. If this is too intense, take the arms further away from the bolster. Maybe you're somewhere in between. Maybe the side feels different depending on if you have a shoulder limitation. Honor your body. On your next inhale, lift your head. Exhale, take the arms back to their sides. When you're ready, you'll press your palms to the mat. Let the arms lengthen, come off of the bolster. Looking at the bolster, rotate it so the short end is back towards you, and then sit away from the bolster. Now, as you sit away from the bolster, know that we're coming into a supported heart opener. We want the length of the bolster behind us so that we can set our spine onto it. Now, slide the short end all the way up to your glutes. Hold on to the bolster. Lay your entire back and head onto the bolster. This is a supported heart opener. Now for the legs, we've got two options. We can take the option of the knees bent, feet hip distance. The knees can come in towards each other. Try that. See how it feels in your body. Alternatively, you can extend your legs so that you're bringing your legs straight onto the mat. Tuck your chin towards your chest. Wiggle around anytime you need to. Feel the bolster supporting your spine. Let the arms open out to the sides. The chest is open. The heart is open. Now making an intention of cultivating love and compassion for yourself and sending it out to others. If you'd like to also feel this stretch in your shoulders, you can open your arms further out, positioning the wrist in line with the shoulders. Now this might feel good to you. You'll keep the backs of your hands grounded. If at any point you feel numbness or tingling in your arms, then you're gonna wanna bring your arms closer back down to your body. The reason why is because that numbness, that tingling, is likely a nerve that's being compressed. If we keep it there, then we can cause nerve damage, and we certainly don't want to do that for our bodies. So find the shape for your arms, for your shoulders, for your chest. Let your eyes close. Deepen the breath. This is our last posture before Shavasana. We've got about 3 minutes left here. And then Shavasana will be the posture that we enjoy for the most amount of time today. Continue to relax. Continue to lengthen the breath. We're halfway through our supported heart opener. Heart openers are really great options to come into in our yoga practice anytime we're feeling emotional or out of balance. They really help us to release that energy. And as we're creating this shape and letting that release happen, we might feel the emotion moving. Let that happen if this is the case for you today. Know that your energetic body is balancing. As we balance, we heal. We've got 1.5 minutes left. With each exhale, sink deeper. Now remember to pay attention to those arms. Any tightness, numbing, tingling means that we bring the arms towards the sides of the body. Maybe now feeling the backs of the hands and the forearms connected down. The chest is still lifted. The heart is open. The back of the body is supported. We're in our last minute. Just breathe. Exhale, let it go. Full, deep breaths, calming the nervous system. Just a few more rounds of breath until we make it to our Shavasana, our final relaxation pose. Start to bring the arms by your sides. Rotate the palms down towards the mat. Use your energy to lift your head off the bolster. Pressing hands to the mat. Lift your shoulders, lift your back. Peeling yourself off the bolster. Coming onto your seat. Now, Shavasana today is going to be side lying. If you know that you prefer to be on your back, that's totally cool. You can do that. I want to give this option to anyone that doesn't want to lay on the back or has trouble relaxing there. So the props we're going to use will be a bolster, bring it out to the side, and we'll also bring in a blanket. And we're going to fold up the blanket to make a pillow underneath the head. Come onto one side. Now we're going to take 12 minutes here. If you want to do both sides, then you'll do 6 minutes on each side. I'm going to lay onto my left side because my right shoulder has been giving me issues. So I'll bring the bolster between my legs. This is a great way to relax and sleep. Bring the bolster underneath the thighs. The reason why is because when we don't have a prop between our thighs, the knee is moving down and that's pulling onto the hip. By positioning a bolster between the thighs, then we can keep the knee in line with the hip. And then we bring a blanket, a folded up blanket underneath the head. Now we're completely relaxed in our side lying shape. We let our eyes close. We sink in. With your eyes closed, know that I'll let you know when it's time to come out. You don't need to do anything other than relax or move your limbs around anytime your body's asking for an adjustment. Just relax down and breathe. Now you've been in your Shavasana for 6 minutes. This is the halfway point. If you want to rotate and lay on the other side, you can set yourself up to do that for an additional 6 minutes. If you decide that you've had enough relaxation and you're ready to transition into the rest of your day, please feel free to do so. Because this class is more than an hour long, I recommend the full 12 minutes. There are about 5 minutes left if you want to go for the full length. From here, I'll sign out and leave you to your additional 5 minutes or not. This is up to you. As you continue on, please know that it is my honor to guide you in this practice. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste.